Hi, this is Benjamin Watson again. This is my wife, Kirsten, and we just love to share a little bit about our work with International Justice Mission. IJM is the world's largest anti-slavery, anti-human trafficking, international anti-human trafficking organization in the world. And what they do is they go into certain areas where the justice system is not strong or people are being abused, mainly the poor, mainly women, and they not only rescue and restore survivors, they work to make the justice system stronger so that these crimes against the poor cease to exist. So when we think about sex trafficking and the fact that this is a $150 billion business, so we think about labor trafficking, there are 40 million enslaved in the world right now. There are more people in some form of slavery around the world than at any point in human history. And so the work that IJM is doing for justice really deserve to be commended, but also it's important that we, as people who care about justice, get involved with this, because whatever happens to one person, in essence, happens to us.
I think it's interesting when you hear the term human trafficking, you almost think it's like it's something that happens out there. As long as I'm in my bubble, I'm busy, we have kids, we have a routine, it's like I can help. Let me just give some money to it, maybe, or do something. I'll pray, which is very powerful. But I think we got to the point where we had no other excuse. Well, Micah 6:8 is our family verse, and so in that are three components: justice, mercy, and walking humbly. So when you think about those three things, like how do we do that? How do we leave a legacy for our kids to understand what that means to them and how important that is? And so when we think about, giving our time and our talent to things that God thinks are important, justice isn't always an issue that comes up. And how do we do it in a humble way? Not to boast about how we're helping, but to go in and serve. And so we were able to do that in the Dominican Republic. And I tell you, just going and hearing people's stories. It's one thing to, hear about it, whether it's watching a video, but we had an opportunity to go and meet with some of the survivors. And before we get out of the bus, they run down a list of what has happened to mostly children. And so you hear these horrifying stories of the abuse and the neglect and just what these kids have gone through. And then you go out for a day of joy with them, a time for them to be kids, to run, to laugh, to play silly games. And I just remember being brought to tears, because you look in the eyes of these kids and they look like they're having fun like any other kids, like our kids. And you think about what they've experienced. And so you realize that, what? We have to be a part of this. We have to be a part of their restoration. And how do we do that?
I remember a specific time on one of those trips to DR, we had a day of joy at a outdoor sports complex. When I say sports complex, I mean, outdoor basketball court, fields, all those sorts of things. And it was about, 100 degrees with humidity in the Caribbean sun, and about five young boys, teenage boys, probably ages 16 down to, I think the youngest may have been 11 or 12. They came and we just engaged with them. Now, there's obviously a language barrier, but love conquers that. And so we played games with them to get to know them, to kind of drop the guard. Well, once we had come back, we got word that the person who was running this trafficking ring that was abusing these young boys, he was convicted and he was sent to prison. And the boys were in the process of being restored. And that's what IJM does.
Yeah.
They identify where crimes are happening. They go in, they set up an infrastructure. They train, as Kirsten mentioned, they train the police force to identify some of these crimes that were happening with impunity, so that years later, they can then go somewhere else, because that justice system is acting and operating the way that it should be to protect the vulnerable. God is a God of justice, and there are many issues that we are compelled to be involved in. But if this is one that you want to learn more about, or one that you want to get involved with, understand that IJM is an organization that we don't just, like Kirsten said, if we're going to support an organization, we want to see it on the ground. We want to taste and feel and see, and we can tell you beyond a shadow of a doubt that IJM is not only saying that they're doing this work, there are lives that have been changed. And because there are lives that have been changed, there's a whole lineage of people who have been changed.